Anyhow, speaking of making things up, have we not seen Chris Jericho versus Minoru Grandpa Suzuki already?
In Nightmares Nightly, possibly. Yeah. I feel like
Well,
we
this
have. I mean, I've seen this. I'm going to stand there and chop you, you chop me, let's keep going. I mean, Jericho went to the extreme and he got some blood on his chest, but if you're into them and just seeing old guys do that and then those elbow strikes on the ground and they did a shot of it from the top so you could just see how bad they looked. This was something.
Well, I got some statistics. Because, folks, it was Chris Jericho versus Minoru Suzuki for the FTW title. And when the bell rang, they started the match by going to the middle of the ring and talking to each other. So then Suzuki says, "Hit me." And Jericho chops him, and Suzuki doesn't sell it or register it and just laughs at him. And then Jericho does the same thing, says, "Well, hit me." And Suzuki does, and he kind of sells it. Ew, that hurt. And then they repeated that. Hit me, whack. No, hit me, whack. And then they repeated it again. 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 Not as fast as I am talking, though. But that's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. They did the same thing 12 times in a row, and it took a while. And then Suzuki just stood there and let Jericho hit on him a while. And then he turned around and chopped Jericho 11 more times. And then Jericho chopped Suzuki 7 more times, but Suzuki didn't sell any of them. And then they traded 28 chops until they went to the break. When they went to the break, it was picture in picture. And I know this will be shocking to some, but for the entire 3.5-minute commercial break, they continued to stand there and chop each other. And when we came back from the break, guess what they were doing? They were trading chops. And I don't know what kind of skin Suzuki has. Maybe he's so old it's calcified into some type of leathery consistency. But Jericho wasn't doing shit to his chest, but Suzuki had chopped Jericho's chest till it was beet red. And when it first started dripping blood, I said, that's legitimate. When it got that bloody, I know that the last time that happened, he was doing it with another one of these Japanese guys. Maybe it was Suzuki. He bladed his chest because it was too much. It was like he goddamn punctured one of his aortas. But this time it could have gone either way. But then, I mean, what wasn't chopping was, I don't want to say embarrassing because it was worse. It was almost pathetic. Jericho clotheslined him one time, and Suzuki took a bump like Ox Baker. And then Jericho goes to jump off the turnbuckle. He springs up on the buckle and does the thing where he turns around and does the flying clothesline. He was supposed to get met with a chop, but Suzuki couldn't hit him on the fly, so Jericho sold the same chop twice. And then they fought on the floor, and Suzuki just gets Jericho down on his hands and knees and puts a chair around Jericho's arm. And Jericho sits there and holds it still. And while he's watching Suzuki walk over and pick up another chair and walk over to him and hit the chair. And then he sells his hand. He was watching him. Obviously, he could have just pulled his fucking hand out. And they traded fake forearms on their knees. And then Jericho got the walls of Jericho, and Suzuki just got out of it. And then Jericho foiled Suzuki's pile driver, hit him in the balls, hit him with the Judas, and 1, 2, 3. And to quote Frank Spaceman Hickey, fucking cartoon. But then Suzuki got up and gave Jericho a pile driver anyway. And then Brian Keith and Big Bill, who were barred from the ring during the match by special order, apparently were in the second row because they jumped in immediately and jumped Suzuki, and then music played, and here came Shapoopy. And he made the save and beat up all the heels, and they ran off. What the fuck is going on here? Did they have to agree that Suzuki could come back and still beat the fuck out of Jericho if he did a job, and then to get beat up by these other guys, he's going to get a save from Shapoopy? What is going on here?
Not good. Not very good. And then Big Bill and Brian Keith got on Big Bill's kicks says everyone handles him really gently. Ever since you pointed it out, it's impossible to avoid seeing it. It's everything.
But here's the thing:
and he sells nothing on top of that.
Even if you hit him hard, he won't sell it. But they're treating him, as I've said, like a Fabergé egg. Is that because they're scared of him because he's a legitimate shooter? Then what kind of unprofessional prick? Because somebody didn't even potato you, but just hit you as they would a normal person in a normal wrestling match. Now you're going to stretch him? So he's not asking him to do that. I don't know what the fuck. But no, nobody, he crumples to the mat like a goddamn sack of fucking noodles. And his shit is weak except when it looks really stiff. And everybody's afraid to make contact with him. Yikes. And the combined age here was 109.
And the man that saved him was a man who had his brain removed and put back in his head.
Yeah. And he's the smart one.